It was almost exactly a year ago that you started at Meta, leading the AI team. And I thought maybe you could set the scene for us just a little bit. I'm wondering if you can let us know where you think Meta is as an AI company today versus where it was a year ago. Specifically, like, what's the reputation of Meta as an AI company today versus a year ago when you got there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a very exciting year for Meta and AI. I mean, I think when, roughly a year ago, a little more than a year ago, Meta released Llama 4. And while that was still an exciting release, I think, it wasn't quite on the trajectory that Meta needed to be able to continue building a lot of the products and experiences that it seeks to build. And so, we've been hard at work over the past year. Since I joined and since starting Meta Superintelligence Labs, we've been undergoing an entire process of building a new scaling ladder for our models, developing new sets of infrastructure, and new research to be able to power sort of a new series and family of models. And back in April, we released the very first fruits of that labor, the Muse Spark models and an update to Meta AI. The reception to all of that was incredibly positive. It was even better than, frankly, we had expected internally. We saw incredible gains in usage of Meta AI. It was at the top of many of the app stores. And we're sort of working on our even larger models today and are excited about what we'll be able to demonstrate to the world. We clearly, we're on a very exciting and fast trajectory, and we're excited to continue showing the world what we produce. I think that the AI industry has gotten very hot and competitive, obviously, in the past year as well, and we take that very seriously. But we're really excited.
Yeah, obviously the goal, you're spending in the same way that an OpenAI, Anthropic, others are spending. Do you feel like you guys are in that same tier? Is Meta, is it OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta at this point, or do you feel like there's still a bit of a gap? Because I'd say certainly a year ago that was the perception.
Yeah, the Muse Spark model that we released is not at the tier of the leading frontier models, but we believe it's a very exciting data point on the trajectory, and we expect the upcoming models we release to be quite competitive with the leading models in the world.
Yeah, you called Muse Spark an appetizer model. To build that metaphor out, when does the entree model get here? Will it be at that tier that you guys ultimately want to be at?
Yeah, we are in process of cooking the.
The whole conversation is just going to be this back and forth.
No. I mean, we're cooking it. We're excited to show it to the world once it's ready. We're seeing very exciting and promising results in the process of training it right now. So we're quite excited about it, and I think there's overall, we built the entire research effort around predictable scaling. So the entire belief of our overall research effort was, that in many ways the central belief behind the current modern AI boom is that as you scale these models, you will see get incredible results and get predictable levels of increased capability. And so, Muse Spark, it was an early data point on that scaling ladder for us. The next models we release will be an even greater point on the scaling curves, and we are really excited to show the world what we'll be able to produce.
And obviously you went from basically rebuilding the team, rebuilding the lab to this Muse Spark model in a very short amount of time. What is the biggest barrier from getting to that, the appetizer, to the next level? Is it, I assume it's not resources. You guys are spending a ton of money on this effort. Is it just simply time? Is it talent? Like, what's going to bring your models to that frontier?
Yeah, it's we've talked about some of this in some of our public blog posts and whatnot, but it's about continuing to scale the data, the compute going into the models, as well as continue to scale with research. So continue to drive advances in underlying research breakthroughs to continue driving forward the progress of the models, and building infrastructure to support all of this. This is in many ways a year where all of the labs are dramatically scaling up their models, and we are on, we think, a much faster trajectory to do so, because obviously we've been doing all this work over the course of the past year. But yeah, we need to build the infrastructure, we need to scale the data, scale the compute, train these large models, and show them to the world.
Yeah. I want to talk about model strategy a little bit. Before you got to Meta, everything was open source. That was definitely the overarching strategy. MuSpark model is not open source. I believe I heard you on a prior interview basically say that as you guys were testing it, it didn't feel safe to open source. Can you go deeper on sort of what you mean by that and how you made that decision?
Yeah, so one of the things that we did when, as part of Meta Superintelligence Labs, is we updated what we call our advanced AI scaling framework, which is really our view of, what are the risks that we see in developing these very powerful models, and how do we want to handle those risks as we see them in early testing. And we published a lot of what we saw in the process of training MuSpark in our preparedness report. And some of the things that we saw is that it actually triggered some high-risk areas in the course of early training, particularly around biorisk. But also a number of the risks were elevated. And this is something I think the entire industry has seen as the models have improved pretty dramatically over the past year. So we certainly aren't the only ones to see a host of these risks show up as we scaled up the models and as we sort of kept pushing the frontier of research. But we saw these risks triggered, and we realized, I think fundamentally those, when we launch a model like MuSpark in a product, we have a lot of ways to mitigate some of these risks and ensure that we're able to launch it in a safe and responsible way. It's much harder to do that when you open source a model and people can use that model in all sorts of contexts that we may not have full understanding of. So we're in the process right now of developing models that we believe are fit and safe to be open source while still maintaining as much of the performance and capabilities as possible.
So you will still do open source. It sounds like Llama, though, is not the brand or the pillar that you're going to do. Is everything open source going to be MuSpark or adjacent?
We have exciting debates about branding internally, and nothing to share right now. But yeah.
Okay. The big models that are coming that you've hinted at. Give us a general sense, if you can. Obviously, each model, each company is perhaps known for certain things. Do you feel as though you're moving in a direction where Meta's models are going to be known for, best in class at X versus Y? Like, what are you hoping to accomplish with what you guys come out with next?
Yeah, so already in MuSpark, some areas where we were really impressed by the capabilities, even though it was, again, like a much smaller model than ultimately we intend to train, were around multimodality capabilities, so its ability to handle images, video, audio, and that's obviously very important and critical for Meta's business. Also, its capabilities in health were really impressive, and that was very exciting for us. Health is an area that we view as really critical as we scale these models out to billions and millions of people all around the world. And then also, a lot of the early results we saw in the ability of the model to create vibe code and create little games or artifacts or whatnot were very powerful. So we are doubling down on some of these and continuing to invest into the agentic capabilities of the model. So we're really excited for the upcoming models we release to be very, very capable agents paired with a lot of these other strengths around multimodality, around health, and many others. And ultimately, what we're really excited to build for the world are the best personal agents for everybody around the world as much as possible.
I want to get to agents in just a second because you just made some news on agents actually yesterday. You have other stuff in the works that we can talk about. But before we pivot off safety real quick, I did want to ask a question just about China. You've talked publicly about the risks and the threat of AI coming out of China. You guys have also trained on some Chinese open source models. I'm just wondering, can you give us a sense of how you view China right now through the lens of AI? Is it a threat in the way that we've heard historically? Do you feel like that's changed?
Yeah, I think that it is incredibly important for the United States to lead on technology and the economic benefits that can be created from AI. I think this is very, very critical. If you look at the history of civilization, technological advances are very important for countries or civilizations to adapt to and be able to adopt, and that really defines, really truly the course of history over long arcs. So I think it's very important that the United States is able to lead on AI, and that's a huge part of our focus at Meta as well, is ensuring that we are able to contribute to the United States leading.
Where do you think we are right now as a country? Is the U.S. leading?
I think right now the U.S. is leading, yes.
Okay.
And I think it's, this is one of these situations where it's important for us always to track progress from many other countries, but especially China, be very thoughtful and understand exactly what's happening within each country and what are the reasons those things are happening. But I think right now we're ahead.
And sorry, I said I was going to get the agents, but one more. What could put that at risk? What could put that lead at risk? What's the most threatening thing to stop that?
That's a good question. I mean, ultimately, I think we are in a phase where the research advancements industry-wide that we're seeing from continuing to scale these models, apply more compute, apply more data to these models, are just incredibly exciting. And in some ways, the progress and pace of research today is nearly miraculous. And so I think that it's important that we're able to continue this pace of progress, that we're able to continue being able to continue scaling up these models.
Yeah. Agents now, finally. You guys, just yesterday, I believe it was, announced a business agent. So advertisers can use this to interact with customers, I presume eventually help even develop ad campaigns, things like that. But you're also developing a consumer agent. Talk me through your vision for how ultimately agents will reach all of us. Like, I guess I'm wondering, is an agent going to be similar to like my email address where I have one core agent and maybe a secondary agent? Or is it going to be like the apps on my phone where I have one agent for every single task in my life? Like, what do you envision we're going to be using as a society?
Yeah, we ultimately think it'll probably land somewhere in between those. I think, we really believe that people are probably going to have one, maybe two, maybe a small handful of agents that they rely on. And maybe they have a personal agent that's focused on things like their health and maintaining their personal relationships and, helping them be a better parent and be better with their friends and family. And then, perhaps they use that same agent in their work lives, especially if they're working in a small business or they're an entrepreneur or working within a smaller organization. And then, maybe there's worlds where if you work within a larger enterprise or a larger company, then these become bifurcated and separated. Not too much unlike email, let's say, or plenty of other key technologies that we use from a day-to-day basis. So we think that ultimately it should be, agents will be something that become deeply personal and should be things where over time you find yourself being able to rely on them more and more and more for more and more of your personal life, more and more of your work life. And that'll be a process that all of society goes through it together.
Do you feel that Meta in particular, and again, a lot of this happened before you got there, but long history of privacy-related issues, are people going to be willing to trust a Meta agent with the personal tasks of their life that you're describing?
I think that this is like one of the most important societal questions for agents writ large. I mean, I think that there's incredible amount of innovation and technology that's been built out on things like agentic safety, ensuring that these agents are respectful to your privacy, ensuring that they're respectful of your boundaries, and continuing to design products in a way that are able to support that. So this is definitely something that we're taking very, very seriously, and we're being quite thoughtful about. And ultimately, we're excited to show the world what we've built. But we think that this is not even just a Meta problem. This is an industry-wide problem as we build more and more powerful agents. I think it is a redefinition of humans' relationship with technology in many ways, and that's something that we're all going to have to think through and work through together.
How soon will we see a Meta consumer agent?
We are actively cooking it, cooking the entree.
Good. Yes.
And
okay.
But no, I think this is one of the things that was very exciting for us internally about the Muse Spark launch and Meta AI is that we even when those launched, we were cooking things internally, both the larger models as well as some of these products that you referred to that we're, if anything, more excited about than what we came out with in April.
Okay. And how are you using agents right now? Your boss, Mark Zuckerberg, it's been reported he has like a Zuck bot, essentially, or various versions of agents that he's tasking some of his CEO duties to. Is there an Alex bot that's doing part of your job right now while we're on stage?
Well, I definitely use agents to support and help me in my work a lot. I think that in many ways, being a leader within a company is really about how well are you able to, understand everything that's happening at the company to the best you can and help, support your team and being able to continue to execute better and better. So I think there's all sorts of things that agents can do to help you there. But I think the uses of agents that are probably most exciting to me are the ones where the ways I use them in my personal life. So, I use an agent to help me be healthier. And I use an agent to help me keep in touch with my friends and ensure that I maintain those relationships. And I think these are use cases where they're very notably different from the world where I didn't use an agent at all. These are things that I think are have been hard historically for me to stay on top of. Both my health as well as keeping in touch with all my friends. And having an agent that's there to help support you do a good job of those things has been pretty transformational for me.
Somehow we only have a couple minutes left, but I want to ask some sort of bigger picture questions about AI and society. But I actually want to start at Meta, right? So your team is getting an immense investment. You guys are investing hundreds of billions of dollars in AI writ large. At the same time, there were layoffs at the end of last month. So there are people, and some of the framing is, hey, this is to offset that. As the person in charge of AI, I'm just wondering, how do you deal with that reality, right? That you are working on a product that you're excited about, but at the same time, the company is saying, hey, this is costing jobs as well. How does that make you feel? How do you deal with that internally? I'm just wondering how you, deal with that reality.
It's incredibly difficult to say goodbye to teammates, and I think it's very well known that this is a challenging thing to go through as a team, and something that is important to acknowledge. We are ultimately really excited about the progress that we're making in AI and the products that we're building, and we're excited to bring those to the world. But yeah, I think that there's running a large company is very complex, and we're working through a lot of those issues. But we don't take any of it lightly. But at the end of the day, we're excited about what we're building.
I think job loss in general is probably one of the biggest fears with AI. What's your view on that? Is if AI goes the way that everyone envisions and we reach super intelligence, is there a world in which that can operate and live alongside all of us staying employed?
I think it's something that we should pay a lot of attention to, and I think that we should track closely and try to understand what the impacts are. I think one thing though that we never, I think rarely talk about, but is also happening that's very exciting, is that AI is enabling the creation of more businesses than ever before in the world. And we see this in our data. I'm sure many companies see this in their data. There are more new companies being started today, through use of AI tools than ever before, and those numbers are only growing. And I expect as AI tools become more and more powerful, we'll see more entrepreneurs, more small businesses being started. And so I think there's, the economy is a complex, machine. And one of the things that we see within our data today is that there are more small businesses being started. There are more entrepreneurs. There's more opportunity for entrepreneurs. And so, and we're really excited about that. We're excited about supporting small businesses throughout the world.
Is it the kind of thing that you feel, we saw the Trump executive order just this week, where the administration wants to sort of review some of these models before they're released. I'm curious what you thought of that, first of all. But two, is there another type of regulation that you think actually might be helpful to prevent, job loss or prevent a world in which AI is taking priority over the humans?
Yeah, I think. Well, first of all, I think this is a really important and powerful technology, and so I think it's great that the administration is deeply considering how we should be thinking about this technology, how we should think about responsible deployment, and what all that entails. So I think that's, broadly speaking, I think it's been really great that this has been an issue that the administration has been really involved on and very thoughtful of. And
you don't think it slows innovation to have a review process like that?
Well, I think it's always a balance. Regulation is notoriously difficult to get right in almost all contexts. But I think that what we're seeing from these models is just that they are becoming dramatically more capable, and I think it's important that we're thoughtful about how we deploy them ultimately.
Okay.